gentlemen, and welcome to Where's My Sage. In a minute, I will find Christy. There she is. Your sound's gone again. Oh, you're muted again.
Unmute me.
Yeah.
So now, not only
we're two tonight.
oh man.
All right. So let's try this again.
You know? Okay, so look, I let you have
Sage.
last week.
Don't
let it go to your head. Okay, you had last week. You got it out of your system. I don't want to hear it. I'm back. Now we play by my rules.
Yes. Good evening, Carrie. How are you doing this evening?
Hi, Carrie.
Or at least the Bigfooters are here to support me. Very, very happy on that.
We girls stick together, right?
Yeah. Good day, Linda.
Right.
Yes. And so we're waiting for everybody to tune in. It's for those that really got to hang out with us last week. It was a good time. The boys enjoyed it. I enjoyed working with them. If you're into finding more information about Bigfoot, last week was great. Steve and Joe and Cliff and Jay were absolutely amazing.
That's right, Linda.
You know,
I can't laugh too much. It's already starting to hurt.
Yeah. So for those that weren't here last week, Christy was out with some surgery, and she's back to give me a hard time, and that's an awesome. We are out on iTunes now, so if you guys need to cut out somewhere during here and want to look and listen later in the day, we're out there on iTunes and Spreaker and about 7 other podcast platforms.
Thank you.
So hello, Michelle, and
thank you, Michelle. Hi,
hello, Jamie. So and Talk with Teddy's here. Hello, Teddy.
Hey,
Teddy is on after us on WLFEDB radio, and we are coming to you tonight from Where's My Sage, Tactical Bigfoot Research, Christy's business page, WLFEDB radio on Facebook, and our YouTube page. So please get out there, subscribe. If you guys are looking for something, if you're night owls, Talk with Teddy is an awesome show. Check that out. Ted's got a great show. They're also on Paratalk Radio on Monday nights. And Talk with Teddy, you never know where Ted's going to go with his crazy crew. So tonight we're going to be doing. So what's anything else going on? You were out there for a week. We did the investigation at Star Clark. The boys, next week we got the Reverend Tim Shaw.
Tim Shaw. That'll be a fun one too. Yes.
And hopefully I'm not stuck in the middle of the woods somewhere, and I can make it down and give you a hand. So
we got it. Don't worry.
I know I got some special events next week.
And I can handle it.
Got some new technology to go out and try and show you guys. So, but tonight.
Yeah, you have some exciting things coming up in the future. Can't really talk about too much of it now, but yes, you do.
No, got to be hush on there.
Yeah.
But, probably be back in that valley again. Yeah. Big Ray, welcome to join in with you guys. So.
What am I, chop liver? What is this? First, he doesn't bring me on. Then he keeps me muted. And now Ray's saying, hey, the big guy's here. Doesn't even mention me.
That's Ray, not me. Whatever. So.
Anywho, you tell I have a lot of pent up. I've been, just having a rest all week. So now I'm ready to bust out. So, I can't bust out too hard, but.
And this is going to be a good show for that. Tonight, guys, we are on with Mr. Chuck Porter, and I'm going to bring Chuck on with us. There we go. Good evening, Mr. Porter. How are you?
Right? Is this where I take?
Yes.
Okay, listen.
I was told that.
It's already starting to hurt.
And there was $50. My show.
Oh,
PayPal will be sent.
So this is Chuck, guys.
I made myself laugh.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
So how are you tonight?
You'll regret it.
Yes. No, we are not. For you folks tuning in tonight, we are going to be doing a military and first responder paranormal show. And
sure?
I hope so. If not, it's going to be a great comedy routine. So,
or something.
Yes, or something. So, Chuck is retired Marine and law enforcement officer, and started a really cool clothing line that kind of went on, and he's been around, and he also does a Salute to Service radio out of the South Carolina, correct? Because I'm getting my Carolinas mixed up because my mother popped on and totally threw me off with North and South.
South Carolina.
Look at him trying to blame you.
I have sad news on the Salute to Service front. Yeah, the first week of coronavirus, when South Carolina got the mandate to shut down, they canceled our show. And can't be mad at it. It was strictly a business decision. Small, Intercom is a huge organization, but small shows like ours rely heavily on local advertisers. Well, when there's no business to advertise for, the advertising revenue dries up, and we were the low-hanging fruit, unfortunately. So we got cut. Now they've offered us an opportunity in the future to bring it back as a podcast.
Good.
But we'll see if that happens.
Okay.
It's unfortunate, but business is business, and I can't get upset with it.
But you got Chuck U.
Oh, here we go. See, 1 week and we're already out of sync. What's up with that?
Yep.
We're finally finding our way. Go
Together.
for it.
But you still have Chuck U on YouTube, correct?
Still got Chuck U on the YouTube there, on the Google, on the YouTube.
Awesome.
On the internet, and it's building slowly. YouTube is a new adventure for me. I had never dabbled in it before, but we just went over 500 subscribers on the channel, and pushing towards 100,000. Because I like
amazing.
Like
Wow. Hey, you know what though? You set your intention, you put it out there, and it will happen. So that's the right mentality, and that's absolutely what you need to do. That's what we all need to do, right?
Yeah. And
I concur wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
And please like and share this, guys, tonight. It will be a good show.
Wait till it's over. You don't know what's going to happen.
Oh, and you should trust me.
It's a good thing I took my medicine before the show started. I'm going to be really sore.
We can bring you on at WLFE radio.
That's right.
He's on there. He's out there to sign you up.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Well, hey, you know what though? When one door closes, another opens. And so you never know what's going to happen. And you just have to roll with the punches. And sometimes it's blessing in disguise. Unanswered prayers.
Both of you bringing me on. This is a cool thing for me, because I'm usually sitting where you're sitting and doing the interviewing.
Yes.
So this is neat for me. I haven't had many opportunities to do this from this side of the table, so to speak. So it's a cool thing, and I appreciate you guys having me on.
Thank you for coming on. This is exciting. Yeah. This whole subject and everything about it is near and dear to both of our hearts. For many reasons. So, yeah,
sure.
It touches us all personally, and so many people out there.
Absolutely, and it's fascinating.
Yeah.
So we started this conversation 2 years ago in Vegas.
We did,
and I don't know how we went from looking at silencers to talking about Bigfoot, but it was a right turn in the middle of the floor there. And
be a fly on the wall in that room.
Stranger turns has been made, I'm sure.
Yes. But
probably just a few hours after I left the show, some strange things. I'm not going to say what, but probably.
Yeah, it's probably why I haven't been back to Vegas since. No, I could go back after with folks from Naked and Afraid. Crazy group of. So
it's a good time though, right, Mike? I mean, it's a good time. Yeah.
This is a great time, and to show that we have another side to us. That crazy. I'm going to use the explicit comment banner tonight, guys, because it's how it's going to have to come out, and I know it's going to come out that way tonight.
Because it's necessary. It's all there's.
Yeah.
You can already tell how this is going to go.
So, you know, crazy shit happens all the way around. And
well, I know, and I'm gonna wax academic here for a minute. Not even academic, but I think as law enforcement officers, as cops in general, I think that we have a proclivity to this kind of paranormal, cryptozoology type stuff, because it's, in many cases, it's an unknown, or it's a question mark. And we like nothing better than to get answers, whether we're getting answers for victims of crimes or whether we're getting answers for ourselves.
Right.
We like to have answers. And
Right.
when you've got something that, whether it's Bigfoot or Chupacabra, the Loch Ness Monster, or whatever, or it's a ghost, or it's, you know, something in that paranormal realm that has a question mark after it, then we want an answer. And we have a skill set that allows us to, like you're doing, Mike, that allows us to look into that kind of stuff with a third eye almost. And I think it's in our nature to be curious. I had an instructor at the academy 100 million years ago tell me that, well, he told the class, if you don't want to know what's in your neighbor's underwear drawer, you're in the wrong business. And I thought that was a weird delivery, but he wasn't wrong, you know? So I think it's natural for us in this profession to want to know what the hell, and we want to find answers. So, you know, I've known cops that have had experiences, and I don't know that there's many cops that haven't, but they were embarrassed or ashamed to talk about it. Why?
Right.
Why would you be?
Right.
So this is a cool outlet. I think this is a cool thing that you're both doing. This is awesome.
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, very much. I mean, I think people forget, you know, we're human, and as human beings, you know, things go much deeper than what we've been allowed, you know, to acknowledge in society and as about ourselves. And, you know, as a medium, excuse me, I believe we all possess these abilities, at least to some degree, whether it's just being, you know, using our intuition, whether it's, you know, going deeper and being a medium. And it's not, one is not better than the other. It's just what we're meant to do. It's what our journey is and what our mission is in this life. So, excuse me. So when it comes down to it, I think the more we tap into that, you know, the more we realize there's more to this, and that there is a much bigger picture out there that people are afraid or unwilling to acknowledge for lots of different reasons.
Sure.
But, you know, when you are, because I'm also a Reiki master, you know, we do Reiki, Mike does Reiki. When you are called to a vocation of service, I'm a dental assistant by trade. I still keep up my license even though I don't work. Whenever you're called to a vocation of service to help other people, whether it's military, fire, police, spa owners, healthcare, whatever the case is, you're a healer. And so all of you guys are healers because you're taking care of others and protecting others. And that's such a huge thing. And so the whole idea of having to be macho or tough to protect your family or to protect, you know, whoever, to do your job. Okay, I kind of get it. Maybe I get it because that's how we're all conditioned and raised to think. But at the same time, it takes an even tougher person in my eyes to say, you know what? I can connect with this deeper part of myself because I know there's a bigger picture and I'm a part of that bigger picture. And it's an important thing. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I like that you use the word calling. And Mike, this may be something that you can relate to, but one of the first questions I would ask trainees when they got in the car with me as their FTO is, why did you want to be a cop? And you get all the canned answers, man. You get the, well, you know, I want to help the community and I want to give back and all that.
Right.
If the only answer that ever made any sense to me was the answer I gave to my first training officer, which is, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know why I wanted to be a cop. This just feels like where I'm supposed to be. This feels like what I'm supposed to be doing. My dad retired in 1982. He's beat all to shit. He's been stabbed. He's broken 17 bones, his back twice, his neck once, half of his cerebellum's dead. And I'm looking at that going, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
That's the job I want to have. So when you say it's a calling, I think you're 100% spot on. That there's no rhyme or reason to it. You just feel like that's where you're supposed to be, and that's where you're going to do some good.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, when I was going to school, it was law enforcement, archaeologist, chef. And the corporation I worked for said, "Hey, we'll pay you to become a chef." And I said, no. And then I was minoring in archaeology and anthropology. And that was before the Bones TV show was on and everything. But now I'm using that for this Bigfoot stuff. So, you never know. I spent I spent quite a few years as a lifeguard and swim instructor, and that switched into becoming a recovery diver. You don't ever know where your life's going to go. And you just take each day, and like I tell kids all the time, it wasn't a job. It wasn't a paycheck that I was looking for. It was a career. It was a calling, and 20 plus years of doing it. It's a passion of where I am. And every little kid that starts now, hey, is this what you want to do? And do you want to be part of a life? I sat talking to a guy today. Well, why did you do what you do? Well, we're all brought into people's lives to help them move to the next level. I mean, our whole, I'm on the soapbox tonight, but Where's My Sage was designed to help people get off the, man, my green screen is just horrible tonight.
Got that key going on, buddy?
Yeah, it doesn't want to work tonight. I got the lights messed up. Or it's a new laptop. But, we're brought into people's lives to help them go on and move to the next level, to open their eyes, to see different things. And, yep, Teddy, I'm definitely see-through tonight. And thank you, Teddy posted I don't want to lose this. So one of those guys, there's our list of all the podcast forums we're on right now.
How come you haven't done that for our show?
I didn't even know that we were on about 5 of them there. There's a whole bunch of new ones I've never even heard of.
Yeah, there are. Look at all that. Look at guys. Look at all the options you have. Thank you, Teddy. That's awesome.
Once a week, we're on a new one.
Yay, we're making our way in the world.
So it's always been great, to where we go. And in fact, with my travels, we have a witness, a Pennsylvania constable, and I got to meet this gentleman last summer. Last summer. We're in the new summer here in Pennsylvania, and he has an interesting story. And as I take from folks, like I said, the experiences have been related to me over the years are kind of different. So I'm going to bring on Mr. Constable, and I'll let him introduce himself a little bit more because, again, he's still working and on the job. So, hello, sir. How are you doing tonight?
Good evening, guys. How are you?
Good. How are things going tonight there?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Welcome to our show. Thank you for coming on.
Oh, thank you for the invite.
So can I use your first name, sir?
Yeah, you can use my first, last name. Doesn't matter, Mike.
All right. So I met Doug last year. Well, I told folks tonight, and I'm going to put this out here. If you want to join us tonight, throw me an email, throw me a message on any of our sites that you're watching us from. As long as it's not in a watch site or watch party, I'll be able to message you and bring you on with a link. I met Doug and last year at Eric Altman's PA camping adventure, and got to hear Doug's story. And it's one of those ones, like if you hear the Beast of Whitehall stuff and the guys down there, it's a law enforcement sightings in New York State. I might actually travel that way next week. And so if you want to go on and give us a little background, Doug also runs a group in Pennsylvania, another Bigfoot group. So how did you get involved in this whole paranormal thing?
Well, to be exact and frank, I never believed that there was a bipedal creature on 2 legs, first of all. I started doing security at a windmill farm in Farmington, Pennsylvania. And it was about, well, let's just put it this way. The first night I got there, I had rocks thrown at my car. and I was there by myself, right in the middle of the parking lot. And I was wondering, what in the heck is throwing rocks at my car? I thought it was kids, but there's no houses around anywhere. I believe the closest house is probably about 2 miles, 2.5 miles away. And so I was sitting in my car. I had rocks thrown at my car that first night. The second night I went up, I had nothing happen. The third night I went up, I was hearing wood knocks down in Quebec Hollow, which is right across from the windmill farm that I was doing security for. And it was just a strange feeling. Like I had no idea of what it was, what was causing these wood knocks. I had no perception of anything. I couldn't see anything. It was at night. There was a street light there, but it was like an old halogen street light. But anyway, as the weeks went on, I was able to hire other security officers, constables, Pennsylvania certified agents to come up and help me. So this went on for months. Every time, and I'm not exaggerating this, every time we would do 2 people at night, and every time somebody would leave, this thing would bother me. I would hear screams down in Quebec Hollow. I would hear whoops, tree knocks, rocks thrown at my car. I had no idea what it was. So one night, Dawn, we had radios to go back and forth together to talk on. One night, Dawn called me on the radio, and he said, "Doug, where are you at?" I said, "Well, I'm about 10 miles away from you." He's like, could you get over here, please? He was stuttering. And I said, "I'm on my way." So I flew over there. When I pulled in, he was as white as a ghost. And he looked at me and he's like, "Did you come from that way?" I said, "Yeah, Don, you saw me come from that way." He said, "Oh boy." I said, "What's wrong? Are you all right?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm shaken up, but I'm fine." He said, "Let's walk over this." There was porta-johns. You had office trailers. You had 6 office trailers, and then you had Skyline Drive, which goes back to Brewston Mills, West Virginia. And then if you go the opposite way, it takes you over to Laurel Caverns. And so there was porta-johns in between the first and second office trailer and the 5th and 6th. Well, he went between the 5th and 6th office trailer, the closest one to Skyline Drive, to the road. And it was like foggy and misty that night. So went over to this porta-john, and he said, "Can you grab the top of that porta-john?" I said, "Don, I'm 5'7". I said, "I can touch the top." I said, "But that's what happened." So he told me he was inside the porta-john, and he's probably about 6'3", 6'4", about 300 pounds. He's a big guy. So he said he was sitting in a porta-john, and something reached up on top of the porta-john and tipped it halfway over and then flung it back. And I said, "Don," I said, I'm here." I said, I can't reach up that high. I said, "Go ahead and get in there." So he got in, and I said, "Don," I said, "there's not even a lip for me to grab on this porta-john up top." And he says, "Okay." So he comes back out, and he boosts me up. Well, when he boosted me up, I saw a handprint on the mist from the rain, like it was misty. Right. I saw a handprint, and it like slid backwards. And I took a picture of it. It's on my other phone, which I cannot find. But so after that incident, we resumed normal everything. So on September 9th of 2011, I'm sitting in my car in the parking lot. There's a telephone pole, and to the left of the pole, looking at it, is an 8-foot piece of plywood with electrical boxes on it for all the office trailers. And there's a little halogen light on this pole. So I'm sitting there, and I'm looking at my phone, And I happen to look up, and at the bottom of the pole, I see this black round object at the very bottom of the pole. And I looked and I said, that wasn't there before. So I stared at it for about a minute. And to no avail, it didn't move. So I just disregarded it as a shadow. So I sat there and I looked. It never moved. So I just disregarded it. So I looked at my phone again and I looked back up and it's gone. There's no black object, no anything. So I looked back down on my phone and then I looked up, nothing. And then I looked to the left and I caught movement out of the peripheral vision of my right eye. And I looked back and there was this black object underneath the light, hunched over like this. And then I'm looking and I'm like, what am I looking at? And I looked and I looked. And then all of a sudden it stood up. And then when it stood up, I mean, it stood up. It was next to the telephone pole, and utility companies will put in those iron, like iron steps, the pegs, and they're 8 foot up in the air. So this thing, its head was probably about another foot above the peg. So I looked, and when it stood up, I was like, I am not looking at what I'm looking at here. And I saw its whole frontal face, its body, everything. Its hands were down below its knees. It was black in color, jet black, with a shiny jet black coat, like my Labrador. She's shiny black. I'd say it was about 9 foot tall. And it had like a, I don't know, kind of like, it was a monkey face. It wasn't quite as prominent as a gorilla, you know, the extending jaw, but it did have the cone-shaped head, round eyes, and kind of like a flat nose and a small mouth. And it stood there and looked at me right through my car window. And it turned sideways and took a step, then stopped and looked back at me. And I was like in awe. And in the car that I had, it was a Crown Victoria, and I had a digital cam up on the window, and I never thought to hit the button because I could have recorded it. So when it turned sideways and stopped and looked at me, it took 4 steps. Between that telephone pole and the first office trailer is probably about 22 feet, 4 steps, and it disappeared. I jumped out of my car, ran over there, put my flashlight on it, had my weapon out, and I yelled at it, and it just walked away. It just walked away, and it blended into the night so good, all I could see was a silhouette. And I had an LED flashlight, which was very bright, and when I clicked it on, all I could see was a silhouette. That was it. And it's something I will never, ever forget. Never in my life.
Wow.
And for the people out there that don't believe that, you know, these Bigfoots don't exist, well, they absolutely do. I mean, they're just as real as you and I. And I never thought in my life I would ever see one. And
Wow.
I mean, I tell people my stories and they just look at me like I'm crazy. But I know what I saw, and it was not a bear. It was a creature on 2 legs, a bipedal creature, and just humongous in size. You could probably take 2 Pittsburgh linebackers and put them side by side, and this creature was bigger than that. Very.
That's
just
crazy.
It's just a big stance of an animal. And
Yeah.
I remember it like it was yesterday. I mean, this is back in September of 2011. And I remember this like yesterday. It's something I'll never forget.
Did you at any time feel fear at all? Or was it more instinct to just watch and then follow it?
It was, I don't know what I felt. I mean, me being a constable, I'm not that big of a man in statute, but I don't scare easy. I mean, I do not scare easy. I don't know what I felt. I felt like real anxious and intrigued at the same time. I didn't feel threatened because when I ran over there, I had the gun up on its back and I had the flashlight, over top of my left hand. It's how we're trained. And I yelled at it and it didn't run. It walked away. And
Can I ask a question?
sure.
Did you smell anything?
You know what?
Did it smell like swamp or body odor or anything like that?
No, I did not smell it because I don't know which way the wind was blowing, but I know what you're referring to because before this, Dawn and I were sitting in a parking lot together and we had this foul stench. The wind was blowing this way. So we were sitting this way and the wind was blowing this way. And I had my driver's side window down. He had his passenger side window down. And I said, Don, do you smell something? And he's like, yeah. He said, that stinks. It smelled, I don't know. It smelled like a garbage dump and bad BO mixed together. I mean, it was a foul stench. We had no idea what it was, though.
Well, based on your description and what you just said, it could have been my first wife.
That's all possible.
In all seriousness, though, I was curious about that because for years and years, I've always heard that there's a foul odor associated with sightings a large percentage of the times. Mike, am I making that up, or is that
no?
Accurate?
I've been out with some teams, and it almost. I said close. The one time was close. It was more like a Limburger smell, and the guys had picked it up before I did, but it was kind of that cheesy, oniony, whatever. And we've been the same. I actually have. Yeah, it's not a cheeseburger, but it's that Limburgery, just that funky. In that location, I have hair samples that we pulled from there. I mean, it's that's what.
Are you sure it wasn't just you? Because you used that description to blame something else, and we've been on investigation.
It could have been. It could have been Steve.
You seem to be the common denominator here.
It could have been calls.
I'm just kidding.
So, homeboy that was in the Porta-John that was almost tipped over. His demeanor was fairly calm, you said, or was he shook?
He was shaken up. I mean, he called me on the radio. He was stuttering, and he's been doing security since like 1976. And he said that's the first time that's ever happened to him. But here is the funny thing. There's gravel there, but it's not gravel. It's R3s, which is like the bigger rock. And when you walk on them, they clang. They clang together. He heard nothing. He heard nothing at all. Just his Porta-John tipping over and being flung back.
Hey, man, how to kick the sides out of that damn Jiffy John.
Oh my God.
Chuck Porter's been out. It would have been a Chuck Porter shaped hole in the side of the
Yeah.
I think you got your next t-shirt. Now, Doug, you guys have been back with quite a few different teams to that area, and you found prints, correct? And you
yes.
go out with like Joe, Biello, and Eric, and Eric, was Altman. We'll have Eric in a couple of weeks. You've gotten quite a few things. You're looked trained to look for that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually, I was just out the other day, and I'm seeing more and more like tree structures, like the X.
Yep.
I'm going in the same areas, but I'm looking, and there's like a new X up over here, a new X over here, a whole bunch of tree limbs shoved into like a V of a tree. It's, I don't know why they do that, but I left them a little present. I gave them like a rock structure myself, and I stacked a big rock up, and then they got smaller. And I'm inquisitive to see when I go back up to see if they moved them around, or
Yeah.
the area I go to, it's not really overpopulated with anybody. So, but
And that's the Chestnut Ridge, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So for those of you who are getting into looking at paranormal stuff, you guys have a lot of weird stuff. You've got UFOs, you've got Bigfoot, you've got a whole bunch of stuff going on down there in that Chestnut Ridge, and a great history site. I mean, you have a lot of military, and Washington came through there, correct? And quite a few other historic. Yeah. So it's a very interesting location. I really like it. Pretty area.
It is. It's densely thick too. And I mean, you could actually just probably walk by one, unless the wind's blowing your way and you can smell it, but you could probably walk by one, not even know it's there. They just blend into the environment so well. I mean, I know for a fact that I've probably walked past one at least, and then I'd get halfway down the trail and I'd hear a tree branch break. I'd walk back up the trail and there's a tree, like this big in circumference, just snapped. And it wasn't snapped when I walked down.
So I have a question then, because I'm new to this part of things and just starting to learn. So yes, we can sneak up on each other. Yes, we can learn to tiptoe and not put our weight down. And my daughter, especially my one daughter, we see she goes into stealth mode because she's very good at sneaking around. However, how could
teenagers do that?
Yeah, seriously. Teenager, she's 20. Forget that. She's an adult. I'm going to do that to her in her house someday. Forget that.
Yeah, get her
Whole
back.
Another show. Whole nother
Get her back.
Yeah. But how do you think, this is the paranormal spiritual part of me coming out, how do you think it's possible for a creature that large and that heavy to be able to make it from clearly far enough away without making a peep, and then being able to rock this porta-john and then be gone without making a sound again?
That's a good question, and I can't answer that.
It's an honest answer. That's all I'm looking for.
Right,
Because
right.
And that's how my mind works with all of this. That's why I'm so intrigued by all of this as well.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
the handprint was, I mean, I don't have big hands, but it was probably 3 times my size of my hand. I mean, like Omar the Giant, the wrestler.
Yes.
I'd say maybe about his hand size. I mean, it was up on the porta-john in the mist. It was misting, and it was up on the porta-john, and you could see the hand, and it slid backwards a little bit. So otherwise, I guess when it put its hand up there and tilted it back, it slipped a little bit, but then it just flung it back over. But I told Don, I said, "There's a handprint up here." He's like, "Get out of here." I said, "There's a handprint up here." So I took a picture and I showed him, and he's like,
Right.
"What made that?" I said, "I have no idea, Don. I have no idea." But he says he didn't hear anything, and he was just sitting in there, doing his business, and
Right.
it was tipped halfway over and then flung back, and it bounced off the other porta-johns next to it. So
It's just incredible. What do you think, Chuck? Do you have a theory on how they can move like that and be so elusive and do it so well?
If you look at other large animals, I mean, look at big cats, lions and tigers and bears, oh my. I
was waiting.
They have to be quiet,
Right.
especially big cats. So you take a tiger that weighs what, 300-400 pounds. You take a lion. I don't know how much a lion weighs. I have no idea, but I know they're heavy. but they
Right.
can be quiet. So I don't think it's unrealistic to believe that something that weighs 300 or 400 pounds could potentially be or know or have instinct enough to know that they need to be quiet, and they know how to manipulate their bodies in such a way just like we do. I mean, does a Bigfoot tiptoe? I don't know, but can they manipulate themselves in such a way that,
Right.
that they walk quietly? I would imagine so. If it's true that they hunt deer and other game animals like that, I mean,
Right.
ask anybody that hunts deer. You got to cover yourself in doe pee and sit in a tree stand for hours on end.
Oh,
Shoot
I
one.
know all about it. I live with a hunter.
So
I have nothing against
I mean,
hunting, so that's
if,
just
if
yes, I
your
live that life too. So
if your object is to physically catch a
right.
deer, imagine how quiet you would have to be and how stealthy you would have to be to accomplish that. So I don't think it's out of the question that something that large could be that quiet.
Just go to the zoo. Go up by the elephants. Listen to them walk around. I had the pleasure of
in my life, Mike.
Yeah, well, I had the pleasure of volunteering at a zoo for quite a few years of my teens. You get a chance to go and listen to them first thing in the morning, and they're moving around to get breakfast. You don't really hear them, or some of the that padding. You look at a big pad on the bottom of a barefoot, or cats. At least with cats you don't have nails. At least with the bears you're going to kind of get a little bit of nail. But if it's a human style foot, your nails are on the top. They're not on the bottom. So I am not somebody, to go out and barefoot and run around anymore. But, we had Mel with Naked and Afraid. How many of those guys go out with no shoes on? How many other people around the world,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But,
story of my daughter's life.
Doug, you have any other crazy experiences or?
No, not really, pertaining to that, but I don't know. I go out in the woods regularly as much as I can. And like I said, for instance, we went out 3 or 4 Sundays ago when it was a nice day, and we're walking up through Quebec Run. You know where that's at, Mike?
I got a general idea. A little farther south than we were, right there.
Yeah, it's like
south
of the windmills, just maybe like a mile and a half. And we're walking up through there, up on the road, and all of a sudden we hear crack, just one wood knock. And I stopped and I looked at my wife. I said, "You hear that?" And she's like, "Yep." She said, "I guess we're not alone." I said, "No." I said, "No, not at all." But when Eric and them, when they came up, because when I got home that morning, I immediately got on the internet and I said, Bigfoot groups in my area. Well, the Pennsylvania Bigfoot Society popped up, and they came out that same day, that same night, about 8:30 they showed up. And Eric and Sean Dennis and Tom, I forget his last name, but they walked over to where my sighting was, and they saw an outline of a footprint in like sandstone and the mud. And I forget how big it was, but they took a measurement of it, and it was probably, I don't know, so far down in. And Eric looked at me and he said, "Well, the size of this print and everything," he said, and he said how tall it was. He said, "You're probably looking at a Bigfoot that weighed about 800 to 900 pounds." So, I mean, this thing was immense.
Yeah.
I mean, immense. But I've had, strange things happen to me out in the woods. I don't know if it's related with Bigfoot or not, but, I've had like stuff thrown, in my general direction. I walked down one path and I walked back up the same path, like half an hour, 40 minutes later. And there's an old antique blue bottle, took a cork, and it's laying right in the middle of the trail. And it wasn't there when I walked down the path, but when I walked back up, it was laying right in the middle of the path.
Hmm.
So I don't know if that was a gift, because I gift them. When I go out, I give them bananas and other stuff, and I don't know if they gift me back or not. I don't know if that was a gift, but that was a sign. There's something that put it there, and it was not there when I walked down.
So do you think that it was a Bigfoot, Sasquatch, or do you think it could have been spiritual? Because we give, like if we're going somewhere and we know there's going to be children, I bring little baggies of candy or a ball or, something to
Jack
give.
links.
Yeah. What did you say?
Or Jack links.
What? Or
Last time was beef
That's
jerky.
Right. That's right. Last time he wanted I had 5 different kinds of candy bars. They were all for the spirits, I swear. And then I had like Starburst. I was on a sugar high. However, I had these little packs of beef jerky, and he knew I had it in my bag. He wanted nothing to do with the chocolate, nothing to do with the candy. This was like a 6-year-old little boy. He wanted the beef jerky that I had.
You can see that on our Star Clark video, guys, if you're interested in taking a look at
one.
that.
It's crazy. But you go to Hinsdale and there's a tree, a giving tree up on the hill. So even for adults, the culture, the Native Americans, you can give and leave a gift to show respect and compassion and just a sign of friendship. And so do you think it could have been something like that as well? That maybe wasn't, the Bigfoot Sasquatch situation.
I don't know, but when I go out in the woods, it's like I don't know. It's like a cleansing for me. I get out there and sometimes I'll sit for an hour and just, look around, and I can't answer that. I mean, it's just like with Bigfoot. He's the unknown. People have seen him, but what is it?
Right.
I do not believe, though, that they are paranormal, that they walk through warps, in the woods and they disappear. They're living, breathing animals just like you and I. That's my perception. That's my assumption.
So I'm going to counter that and say this. I'm living and breathing in solid form, but I can astral project and I can remote view. So do you think it's possible that they can do the same thing?
Possibly, but are you referring to like a out of body experience?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's Mike.
I mean,
Mike and his wife will tell you all about it.
Well, I mean, it's just anything is possible and feasible, but they're animals. But we are also considered animals, but we are the higher up on the chain. But these things, like you said, they can hide. My daughter and I, for instance, walking down through Quebec Run, down on a different trail. I'm walking down, and I got a good, very, very good perception. I stopped, and I put my arm out, and I told Kaylee, I said, just stop. And I'm looking around, and I look about 40 yards down this one trail, and there's a V-shaped tree, and I could see a head and a shoulder off to the right of the tree and an arm sticking out, and it was moving back and forth. There was no wind at all, and it was moving back and forth, and it stopped. And then it moved again a couple times, and it stopped. I said, look down there, Kaylee. She looked down at the end of my finger, and she's like, I see it. She said, it's moving. I said, there's no wind. But I mean, everybody gets that sense of being watched, but I really get that sense. And it's like, I scoped the area out and I saw that. And so I just left, I left food and everything else right in front of it. And I actually picked it up and I ate some and I set it on the ground just to show it that it was edible.
Right.
So, but I mean, anything's possible. I don't know. Why is there X's in the woods? Is that territorial markers? I do not know.
So you basically went from being a complete skeptic to holy crap. And now I'm going to take, like Chuck mentioned earlier, taking your skill set that you've been trained in your training and now are using that in the field to analyze, look at things, data collect. You know,
Right.
I follow your Facebook group, and you know what you're using, the technologies you're using, and the applications that we do. And we take from our technologies. We use the thermal cams that are designed for things, the night vision, the cameras, the whole bit. So we really, you know, appreciate you sharing with that whole thing and what you do, and to come forward and, you know, and put that out there. You know, I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate it too. And one more thing before I go. I'm a truck driver as well. And I was hauling sand to frack. It was for Halliburton. And all these deer were standing on the hillside, and they were standing like downhill. Some of them were standing sideways, and they were eating. So I said, I'm going to do something. So when I come back out the lease road, I stopped, shut my truck off, and I looked at these deer, and I did a couple whoops. Well, immediately, these deer looked up at me and started backing up the hill. And then all 5 of them just took off. So
Wow.
why were they afraid? Because I made a whoop?
Right.
What did they know where that came from? Evidently they do, because they've heard that out in the woods then. And they just immediately backed up and took off. They were all gone. So I think I did, you know, pretty good on that type of experiment, but to try it on deer, and well, they took off. So undeniably, you know, I think that there are Bigfoots, even though people don't believe me, but needless to say, there are.
One thing before I completely forget, that because that area, there's fracking, you have the windmills. Are there a lot of caves in that area?
Yeah, there's a lot of caves, which I've been trying to find, but the MAR, they publish, you know, where they find caves at, but they will not give you specific directions or longitude, latitude to the caves because they want them protected because of the white-nosed bat syndrome.
Okay.
So, but I mean, there's several caves up there that probably haven't been discovered yet. And that's another reason why I go out, because
Interesting.
you might be able to find something in those caves, you know, historically. And as long as it's not on state game lands, because the federal government will step in and take it. So,
Ooh, I got a legit question.
As opposed to
Yeah, bullshit.
just wanted to clear that up. Go ahead.
Doug, you said that there's a windmill farm nearby, right?
yeah, located in Farmington, PA, off of Skyline Drive.
And then there's fracking also.
Yeah, there's fracking in that general area.
You think about, in being crazy here, but windmills, I would assume, generate a lot of static electricity as well as other shit. I can't even get the right words out here. A disturbance in the force, right? I mean, there's a lot of stuff coming off those turbines in the way of electricity. When you're fracking, there's a lot of stuff that I would assume would affect geomagnetism, maybe.
Right.
So would that or could that be relative to the amount of activity that's being seen in that area? Question mark.
I don't know. I just think maybe the activity that went on up there when I was up there, it's their environment. And while they were putting up that windmill farm, they were disturbing their environment. They wanted me, when I was by myself, they wanted me to go. I had no idea of what it was. Like I said, rocks thrown at me, wood knocks, screams, howls. I had no idea of what was up there. But what I'm thinking is we were disrupting their environment, and they wanted me to go, and that was it. They didn't want anybody up there.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I showed Eric Altman. He told me, he said, that had to be the male. He said, since the male showed itself to you and you didn't leave, he said, they are not going to bother you. And you know what? They never did. They never bothered me after that. I didn't believe him. I was scared to death, that I'd see it again, or that thing of that size could probably flip a car over. Easy.
So I have a question though. So unless I missed it, if I did, I apologize. How did you know it was a male?
From its statute, because it did. Because Eric told me, he said that it had breast. I said no. I said it was just big. He said, well, females have prominent breast, and
Really?
he said, yeah, and he said the males are just huge in stature. He said, but the females aren't too much smaller, but he said they have breast, and
They have a figure.
I don't know, but I mean, I've never seen. I saw that big black male. I mean, he was just huge.
Very interesting. I honestly didn't know that. I never even thought to ask a question like that.
And that's why the
male versus female. So
Patterson Gimlin film is Patty.
Too. They were.
Yes.
okay.
Also another
very
dead
good.
giveaway, Christy.
What?
People-
What?
The male, they wear pants.
Like Mickey Mouse?
You know what?
I mean, come on. What are you doing?
Uh,
All right, you
Well-
guys, listen.
well, Doug, thank you. And one of these days, I got to get down your way again. Hopefully, Eric's going to do another camping event, or I just need to come down there and get some hiking in with Ricky and a guy. We'll get together with you.
Well,
You're about 5 hours.
I could take you to a place, Mike. It's called Cabin Rocks, and there is a lot of activity right through there. There's tons of footprints down in there, tons of footprints. And also, my wife, she had rocks thrown at her while we were doing traffic control up in the mountains. She called me on the radio. She said, "I just had a rock thrown at me."
And
This is right on-
she's sworn too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
she's also a constable as well. So
Wow. That's
But,
amazing.
yeah, I mean, I can't think of everything that I've gone through. I mean, I've smelled stench out in the woods. I've smelled stench at the windmill farm. But like I said, I never ever thought I would ever see something like I saw.
Right.
And it was just an amazing encounter. I'm glad it didn't turn around. I was so stupid to get out of the car, because I don't even think my weapon would have saved me. Honestly, this thing was immense.
Wow. That's
It
incredible.
was just, it was just the adrenaline going through me at that time. I just jumped out of the car like a moron and ran over there and put the light on it and yelled at it. It didn't even pay me any attention. It just walked away. So I don't think I'll do that again.
Or maybe you will. You never know. Instinct training, whatever it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd just rather take a picture and just leave it alone.
Yep.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Wow.
Chuck or Christy, you guys have any other questions for Doug?
No, I think I'm good. How about you, Chuck?
Nothing. Intriguing story, though, Doug. True
Thank you,
story.
sir.
Very much.
Cool fit.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
sir.
I mean,
Really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
no, you're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. And, Eric can explain in a little bit more detail once you have him on. He's a really good guy.
Yeah. Yes, very much. Very much so.
Thank
Aw.
you so much.
Hey,
Yeah.
thank you.
Please stay
Bye.
safe and thank you for
Be
your
safe.
service. You and your
Thank
wife.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See
Take
you,
care,
buddy.
guys.
Have a great night.
You too.
So
Okay, I got a question.
go.
How much room do you need to grow windmills?
A lot.
I mean, do you like plow the field up, or how does that work?
It's crazy. You have them down there yet?
No.
Oh.
We have nuclear and coal like most America. I don't know what they do up there. And
We have everything up here. It's
we're still burning sticks out in the
Name it.
backyard.
Yeah, the windmills are really interesting. We took Christy out with her for her first run down in Chautauqua County, which is down on the Pennsylvania-New York border near Ohio. Kind of, it's in this little triangle of stuff, and that's all windmills
my life.
down there. And yeah, we left her.
They left my ass. They left me.
We could see her on
They left
thermal.
my ass right there in the middle of the woods. They did.
My ATN could reach
Mike
out
has
there.
a bad habit of doing that to me now.
Yeah.
I got to tell you. So I need to wear a tracking device.
Oh, my
Sorry, I'm going to leave his ass in a haunted house, and then we'll see how that goes.
I'm just going to leave the drop on her and just track her with the drop.
Have you used it?
No, it's going with me to Anoronics this week, and then we're diving in a week. So
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So how did you get involved in this paranormal thing?
Yeah.
And then I've got another guest popping in that we can run
I've
around.
always
Let's hear it, big guy.
been- All right, so I'm going to date myself here a little bit. 100 years ago, remember the $6 Million Man? Remember the show?
Yep.
Okay, so they had an episode or like two of effing bionic Bigfoot.
Yep.
Remember?
Yes, I do.
Mm-mm.
Well, I was a little guy, and it scared the hell out of me. Bad. Like, scared me bad. Like, sleep with the lights on scared. But ever since then, I've always had this fascination with it. And fascination / I'm kind of scared of the idea of the thing. Like, homeboy that was just on Doug, right? Doug gets out of the car with he's going to draw down on it and then shine a light. No.
Chuck's like, no thanks.
No.
Hell no.
No. Chuck's getting real small. Probably on the floorboard of the car and wait for the storm to pass. But in all seriousness, I've had this, like, I guess, fascination with it. And I've never been shy about believing in it. And my wife is from the sticks of Northern California, a little town called Paradise, which no longer exists, unfortunately. It was the campfires a couple of years ago decimated the town. But every time something Bigfoot related comes on, and I've watched the shows and you know, any Bigfoot show that comes on, I'll watch it. And she says, you know, I grew up in the mountains, the Sierra Nevadas, the mountains of Northern California, where all this is prime real estate for Bigfoot. So we never saw anything. I'm like, so there's plane crashes in the United States that have never been found. So despite her badgering and making me feel bad about myself, I've always been a firm believer that whatever this thing is a real thing, whether it's a Gigantopithecus or whether it's a missing link or whatever, it's a thing and it's real and it's intelligent enough to stay away, and it's probably intelligent enough to bury its dead. So it isn't something that we've officially found yet, but that doesn't mean it's not real. So that's kind of how I fell into it. That part of it anyway. So then the ghost stuff. Well, do either one of you know anybody that's not ever seen a ghost, especially you, Mike? Do you know a cop that will not admit to seeing a ghost or having a ghost?
Yeah, I do actually.
Really?
A lot of people who won't admit to it or really haven't. They swear they never have.
Well, you know, now with all the shows and stuff like that, it's becoming more and more commonplace. You know, more and more guys are going on ghost hunts. You know, we took a team out, and you know, they're both doing that stuff. We got a bunch of guys that'll go out, you know, and ghost hunt. We know that. We know more and more people, but I think it's because the persona, you know, you with Travel Channel and Sci-Fi and Discovery, everybody's doing a show now. So I guess it's not, oh my God, we're seeing it in the background. We can't really say we've ever seen anything. I just got a message from our guest, and he's like, "How many guys from our agency actually ghost hunt?" And there's quite a few people that I work with. I know that ghost hunt. And it's there, but have you seen it? When you do the psych exam, have you seen the ghost? Is that going to take you off? Can you say it, or do you have to wait, or you show up at that MVA and something happens? And
that's a good question, man. Especially the psych eval question.
Yeah.
I mean, if you answer honestly on your psych eval, something like that, what does that do to your career? Does that sideline you? Do they go, then you're off taking a whiz quiz in a solo cup, or what happens next? So, I can see where there would be, a hesitation to admit to having experienced something. But I mean, in all my years, especially, and I worked most of my time on the road, it was, I won't say constant, but there was something pretty regularly that was not necessarily overtly weird or unexplainable, inexplicable. But I've got a couple of 3 stories that are like, oh man, I can't explain any of that unless it's this. So, it's just, I think it's part of again, like I said before, the curiosity of being a cop and wanting answers to everything.
Right.
Wanting to know.
Well,
I just want to clarify too, real quick, before we go any further, because I'm seeing some of the comments in the chat room. Seeing a ghost and experiencing something you can't explain can be one and the same, but they can also be very different. But you are still talking about a spiritual side of things, not like a Bigfoot where we think it's more of solid, living, breathing kind of a thing. We can all have different experiences. That's why I asked the question of Doug that I did, because that gift, so to speak, in the middle of the road could have been left by something else. And it didn't have to be an animal that dropped it or a Bigfoot that left it as a gift. It could have been the other side of things. But you won't really know unless you were able to catch it or see it for yourself or someone witnessed it. So I just want to kind of clear that up, just maybe make it a little easier for, because I think that there are more people who will admit that they had experiences that they couldn't explain. But those are easier to forget or to just let go of and not remember than something that's really kind of like boom in your face, especially if you do see something or something touches you or happens to you, if that makes sense. So there's so many layers to this,
and you're not always going to see an apparition running in front of you or something like that. But it's for me, when, we talked about last week with documentation, hey, you're doing something, you're there and you're like, man, this just doesn't make any sense. You kind of put it aside. And when it happens again, you're like, okay, we go out and I go with Christy for investigations, and we've done an active nursing home, and we saw stuff happen during the day in the active nursing home that I can't explain. Stuff I've caught on thermal camera and video camera. We were sitting in an old tin shop that was part of the Underground Railroad. And we had multiple flashlights up doing the half twist on the mag light. And, you're like, okay, so Chris is asking, she's like, I can feel certain things. She's asking questions and she's getting asked and no questions. And I've been out with private investigators and other cops and had them ask those questions. And you're like, on the count of 3, turn the light on. Well, you take that flashlight, or you're using your own flashlight and handing it to a guy. There's no time to put a remote in there to hoax it. And you're like, can't explain this. Okay, but I'm going to document this. We were with a bunch of guys and Christy put some candy out, and the guys are like, hey, we got this. We'll get the little SLS meter out. And, this is video that we got. You guys can go take a look. And those guys are like, you can see. She's like, oh, something's touching my hair. And you pull this little SLS camera, which is part of a Kinect box from Xbox. It's basically a mapper. And you can see 3 little stick figures like standing around her. And you can hear the guy go, I can't explain it. It's just, it's those things, or your spidey senses say, hey, there's something bad. I don't need to go in that house. And there's somebody standing behind that door with,
intuition, your gut.
Yeah.
Huge for you guys, especially.
I've only
First
had
responders, yes.
one real like one experience where I actually saw something that it was a tangible experience. I could see and feel what happened. And oddly enough, it wasn't while I was working. My wife and I were at dinner in a restaurant, an Italian joint in a, kind of a strip mall, nice joint, but not anywhere where you would expect something paranormal to happen. It's not like an old, grist mill or something in the woods or anything. This is like an Italian restaurant next door to the mall. And we're sitting at the bar having dinner, and I leaned back in the chair and I put my arm around her. And when I did, something brushed my elbow, like somebody walked by and brushed my elbow. So I turned to look to say, excuse me, because I didn't want to be a douche and, hit somebody. And when I looked, her hair went up and then fell back down. And I kind of vapor locked because there was nobody behind her. There was nobody. But I physically watched her hair. She was wearing it down, and it went up almost like perpendicular and then fell back down. Yeah. And when it did, she looked at me and I went, I didn't do that. That wasn't me. So the bartender comes over and I said, hey, is this place haunted? And he kind of looks at me and he says,
how'd you know?
The kitchen staff might have stories, but I'm, not at liberty to say whether it is or it isn't. Mm-hmm. That was like, I physically saw that happen. I saw her, and it wasn't like it was static electricity. It was like somebody gathered her hair up.
Yes.
And then let it fall back down.
Yep. Oh,
Get out here.
Well, and the reason I was chuckling when you started the story was because I can't tell you how many people will say to me, oh, you're a medium? Oh, have you ever been to a real haunted house? And I laugh because everywhere for me is haunted. Everywhere. Just because I'm not turned on or I don't pick up on something doesn't mean I can't or I won't. Exactly. Right. I could be on the newest piece of land created by God in front of me with the newest building, with the newest materials. Can spirit be attracted to land and building, and can there be residual and all this other stuff? Yes, but I can be in the newest of the new. They're going to still be attracted to me because of what I do. So it's just funny to say, every place for me is haunted, and people look at you and go, oh, really? Yeah, unfortunately. I just had a reading this morning online, and I heard my dog go into attack mode like a half an hour before I called this lady, and he was in his crate, and you could tell. So I thought the cat went over and was bothering him, but she doesn't even really do that. And I go into the living room, and he is cowered in the corner of his crate. And I look over behind my rocker glider, and there's two energies behind there because they were coming to find me so you don't know. Anything is possible. So,
Wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, I tell you what, you guys have got another guest you want to bring in, right? I don't want to take time away from your other guest, but I've got another brief story.
We definitely want to hear it.
Yeah. So this part of Greenville, South Carolina, part of my beat area was part of Camp Sevier, which was an U.S. Army infantry training base during World War I. And Camp Sevier is pretty big. Part of Camp Sevier after it was closed, it closed in the, mid-1920s, I guess, if I remember correctly. Part of the property was taken over, and they built what eventually became, guess what, a TB clinic. Always a fucking tuberculosis clinic for whatever reason. But this place, after it had been a school, it had been a TB clinic, it had been, many things. And eventually it fell into a state of disrepair, but it was spooky. I mean, just off the jump, this place was spooky. It sat in the middle of nowhere, all by itself in kind of a big open field. So I would take my trainees there and we would do building clearing because it was spooky and it was dark. And the rooms, when they built buildings and houses back then. They just built room. There was no open concept, right? It was just
box. Yeah.
Well, I decided one night I'm going to stop in there and check the building, because a lot of times kids would go in there and drink and do kid stuff and vandalize and whatnot. So I get out and I walk up to the door. And so as you're facing the doors, you walk in, directly in front of you is a set of stairs that go down to a basement. And there was an upright piano at the edge of the stairs. Like someone probably had been in there and they were going to push the piano down the stairs, but they either somebody came in or they weren't strong enough to get the piano all the way to the point where it would tip and go. So it was a little less than halfway before it fell over. So I went in and cleared the building. And when I say cleared it, I mean literally cleared it, gun and everything, because you want to stay in practice. And as I get into the furthest back room, I stop and I'm reading the graffiti on the wall, and all hell broke loose in that front room. It sounded like a piano had fallen down the stairs. And you know what it was? It was the piano that had fallen down the stairs. So I exited that building at warp speed. I ran out the front door and I got in my car and I said, you know what, Chuck, you're a cop. You've got a gun and a flashlight. So go back in and let's find whoever pushed this piano down the stairs.
Guns and ammo don't mix, or ghosts and ammo don't mix. We have a friend who could tell you all about that.
I kid you not, that piano went down those, and it sounded like every Bugs Bunny cartoon you've ever seen when the piano lands on Bugs Bunny or Wile E. Coyote. That's what it sounded like. And if I have ever come close to literally crapping my pants, it was that time.
That was it.
Yeah. But there was nobody in there but me. Nobody. And there is not a force in nature that I'm aware of that could have gotten that piano the rest of the way over for gravity to take charge and pull it the rest of the way. And I've been telling people for years that some bitch was haunted. Nobody would listen to me. And of course I was by myself. But yeah, that really happened. And that scared me bad. And then they tore it down and now it's a park. And we just had a news story come out the other day about how this park is haunted because people are seeing really?
Rolling piano going by.
Shocker.
Yeah.
I'm stunned. Not there's a World War I Army base and a tuberculosis ward. You know, surely that would have nothing to do with it.
So the inside of this building, was it wooden?
Yeah.
Like wooden flat floors, like a grayish wood color?
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm seeing it. That's why as you're describing it, I can see it.
Yeah, straight up wood. And
so I just have to...
it had the that's kind of weird that you're doing that. It had the
Oh wait, it'll get
really
it'll get
that's
better.
Weird.
Guns don't help.
That's weird. So the piano, did it land like to the right? Because I see the piano like off to the right after it hit.
I will be honest with you.
You didn't take a look. He was like, "Hello, I don't know what side it landed."
Could have landed upside
My
down.
bad.
I don't know.
My bad. He's like, I have no freaking clue. Sorry.
Man knows his limitations, man. Yes, and oddly enough, the instead now when they do drywall, they hang it on the 2x4s and everything, but it still had the old plaster walls where it was the slats that ran across the walls, and they would fill them in with plaster.
The lath, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty bonkers that you got that there. That's
yeah.
It was lucky guess.
Get out of my head.
Lucky guess.
That's cool.
Well, yeah.
Thank you. I try sometimes.
Wait until she
Must have seen
describes the
ceilings.
room.
Which
you're
room
in.
had a ceiling like that? I wasn't joking when I said ask Mike and his wife about that. I just told that story
Oh,
today, actually, to
Lord.
somebody on the phone.
No, literally describes the room I'm in. Asked me if I'm wearing plaid pants. I'm like, no, but I look down and I got a plaid blanket over my legs. I'm like, this is my phone. Okay, put the phone down. We're not talking to you for a while.
Man,
See, when he gets out of line, I got to put him back in his place. That's
wherever you are, I guess, right?
What's that?
Wherever you are, you can put him in his place.
That's right. You got
Yes.
that right. Listen, I'm a mom. I'm a wife. I'm a woman.
Man,
And don't mess with me.
you got to live hard, man.
He's a lucky SOB. I don't want to hear it. Keep his ass out of trouble.
Great.
Right?
So
Amazing.
we've got Billy here, and he's got a little story about an experience when he was a firefighter. And, you know, just to mess him up, I know Ray's in the background. We might bring Ray on a little later. So,
Hi,
Ray, be ready. I'll send you a link.
He already
I'm always
responded.
down to
Ray
hear
said
from
guns
my
don't work.
firefighter. I know he's probably working and doesn't have anything else to do. So,
Oh, no. Hey, he's working. Ready? We're going to bring him in. Hey, Billy, go ahead and.
Hi,
Billy.
Billy.
Hello.
Welcome
Can
to
you
the
hear me?
show.
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay.
So, tell us your story there, Billy. I mean, I've heard it, but I know Christy hasn't, and Chuck hasn't. And
Yep. Well,
Billy, be careful with the chair you're sitting in, honey.
I'm sitting
Don't
on
lean
a
back too
futon.
far.
Yeah, there's a pillow behind me.
Okay. Don't lean back too far.
Oh, the dog's behind me
I'm
too.
sorry.
yeah.
I've been a volunteer fireman for 31 years, and this goes back. It was Veterans Day, 1988. I believe it was November 11th or November 12th. It was a Friday night. I had a sinus infection that I didn't know about, so I wasn't feeling the greatest, so I took NyQuil and went to bed. Then about half hour, 45 minutes, we got toned out for a large barn fire. Now, being young and dumb and stupid, I jumped out of bed and went down to the call, and I'd been there maybe about an hour, hour and a half, and this was when safety officers and everything were just starting to come about in the fire service. And our safety officer looked at me and goes, go get checked out by the ambulance. I want your vital signs checked. I said, okay. So I walked over to the ambulance, and my blood pressure was 240 over 160. That's stroke zone. And it didn't come down and didn't come down. So, you know, today's standards, they'd load you up and send you to the hospital. But back then, they took me up to the ambulance base, and of course, they called my parents and waited for them to get there. And they called my primary care physician. He said, put some oxygen on him, see if his blood pressure comes down. If it comes down, I'll see him Monday when he gets out of work. If it doesn't come down, he's going to the hospital. Well, while I was laying there on the gurney, and I often forget about this, but when I was talking with Mike about a month or so ago, and he was talking about this episode, I said, I might have something for you. Well, I'm laying on the gurney, and all of a sudden it felt like I was floating above the gurney, looking down at myself. And there was this very, very bright light. It was like almost blinding bright light. And I'm sitting there floating and drifting for a few minutes, and all of a sudden I heard this loud scream, not now. And the next thing I know, I was on the gurney looking up at the ceiling of the ambulance. So it kind of freaked me out. Now that you sit back and think about it, it kind of freaks you out.
so did you die?
I don't know. I really don't know. Because when
Did they tell you? Like when you woke up, they didn't say, hey, bro, you died?
No, not at all. I'm kind of thinking that I might have been on the way to dying, but something said not now, and something was looking out over me, and that pushed me back. Turns out I had an allergic reaction to the NyQuil that I took, so I can't take NyQuil.
Well, you don't know what you're missing, champ. Well, I guess you do.
Yeah, hang on, my volume's not working. I can't. Okay, there you guys. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you fine. You're nice and clear. You're clearer than we are, Billy.
Okay, I can hear
Yeah.
you guys now.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And it's not something I talk about much.
We appreciate that. And you know,
Mike, what's that over your shoulder?
right here.
Yeah.
That's
Shut
like
screen.
my green screen.
Okay. I
So
thought
no-
I thought you had
Don't
some
get too
energy back
excited,
there.
people.
Christy,
No,
Mike's shoulder.
that's why I got rid of the
What?
green screen earlier.
What is that over Mike's shoulder? It's an orb, isn't it?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep. No, it's my Land Rover that we found on a Bigfoot hunt. It didn't
No
make any
comment.
sense. So, have you had, I know you do some investigations, but have you had any other, weird stuff happen, at calls or,
Not not really since then. Of course, I don't. Usually now I'm just too busy, trying to think ahead and everything, and being a chief officer now and everything. So
right.
Right.
There is a local ambulance service that I ride for, and I was just asked to do an investigation at their facility. The facility's 10, maybe 15 years old, and whenever I've walked in it, I felt like I've been being watched. And now I'm talking with other members, and they'll be sitting there, the only ones in the building, and they'll watch doors open and close and hear doors slam out into ambulance bays. So
Wait, is it the firehouse you're talking about?
this is an ambulance base.
Oh, okay.
EMS station. No.
Because if it was a firehouse and you felt like you were being watched, you probably were.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we have cameras all over our fire station. Yeah.
Top humor there. Christy doesn't. Christy's like, I don't know what you people are doing, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're all kind of nuts.
Oh, I know. I'm my own kind of nuts. Don't worry. We balance each other out nicely.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
well, we appreciate you sharing, and
Okay.
thank you for being a supporter of us.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming on the show, Billy,
Yeah.
and always
And
supporting us.
I could tell you a bunch of stories from when I've been out ghost hunting. So Mike's heard a lot of them. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I haven't. What's your favorite one?
What's-
What's your
yeah.
favorite one?
I got actually two favorite ones. The one favorite one is, Mike, you know where the cart rate is in Henrietta?
Yep. We've this is a good one.
Yeah. I was in there, and I was pushing between 550 pounds, and it was before I had surgery for weight loss, and I didn't feel like going upstairs, so I'm sitting on a piano bench, and I hear a knock to my left, and I didn't move my head, but I moved my eyes, and I looked over, and there was, from the waist up, dressed in a cook or chef's coat, an apparition. And I slowly turned my camera on, and I'm slowly turning to my left so I can grab a picture. And just as fast as I heard that knock, it was gone. My wife was upstairs with a group, and she came downstairs and she goes, "What was that knock we heard?" And she looked at me and she goes, "You saw something." And I go, "Yeah." And I started explaining it to her, and she goes, "Wow, that's freaky." It was too bad I couldn't get a picture of it, but I got the experience of seeing it. And unfortunately, we can no longer get into that location. It's just deteriorated too bad.
It's run right down.
Yeah.
That's a
And
shame.
my other favorite experience was one of the first times I went with Rod up to Rolling Hills, Mike.
Yep.
And we were up in, I want to say, George's room. And I'm a big camera freak, and I have my camera set up so if I'm ghost hunting, it takes 3 pictures. I hit the
Smart.
when I hit the button, it takes three pictures. Pointed at a chair. The first picture, there's nothing. The second picture, you can see the indentation and like someone sitting in the chair. And the third picture, nothing's there. And I put that picture away so I could show it off and keep it for memories. And we moved, and do you think I can find that picture? So one of these days I'll find it and it'll bring back some good memories.
Yeah.
So
Good. Someday. Yeah, sometimes things go away and they don't pop up, and there's a reason for that, but you didn't get rid of it. Unless of course you're like me and have kids and they throw things out that they're not supposed to.
yeah. So
I always find stuff 3 years later that I forgot I had. Usually shows up for a reason. So
yeah. So
yeah.
we'll get you out with us soon, Billy. So
yeah. So
Yes.
well, thank you for having me.
thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks for being on.
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank
no
you.
problem. I'm gonna hang out here
Yeah.
and listen for the rest of the show.
Okay. Thank you.
Sounds
Yep,
great.
no problem,
Thank you
guys.
so much, honey.
Yeah.
Have a
Talk
great
to you later.
night.
You too.
Okay.
So we've had the law enforcement, we've had the firefighter. Now we're going to bring in our military guy. So we're going to bring in Mr.
Ooh,
Ray
what?
here.
Huh?
Mr.
Guns
Ray.
a-blazing himself.
Yeah.
Hi, Ray.
Howdy,
So-
how you doing?
Ray's a regular to our show and one of our fans, and one of those guys that we kind of reach out to. And Ray's had some interesting experiences. And why don't you give your background a little bit there to Chuck there, Ray? And he's, I'm sure, going to be interested, especially with some of your friends that you have there, Chuck and Nick and those guys. So,
Well, first off, Chuck, thanks for your service also.
To you as well, sir. Thank you.
Can you hold up your hand just for a minute?
Which one?
Well, I'm just looking for crayons. That's all.
This one?
That's the one. I see it now.
There it is.
See, I got it.
Listen, I cannot laugh that much anymore. It hurts.
We got it. We got.
I'm gonna be pulling out the hard
do
stuff.
The interbranch tactical advantage. So,
All right.
Rangers.
Oh my God.
Marines.
You bring
1751. All right. So we got
Shots
that.
fired.
No, actually, I do have a lot of respect.
all right, Ray, we got to get you a little bit louder.
All right.
You're a little muffled there.
How's that?
Make Jen hold the phone.
Yeah, because now we're looking up your nose and near your ear. It's kind of weird.
Hey, my finger's in the way.
All right.
Is that anybody?
Jen, help him out here.
Yeah.
You see the mic. Let me maybe if I turn it on.
Say hi to the boys for
There
me.
we go.
There we go. Better? Okay.
Muy bueno.
After invasion of Panama, 1989, I was wounded and spent some time in the VA hospital. Had to recover. Went into military contracting, probably a lot like some of your friends, and got sent to South America. And that was my run-in, my first run-in with the Mapinguari, which is the equivalent to North American Bigfoot. Statue-wise, a little smaller, browner hair, still stinks. We had several encounters over 3 days. Actually, last week, one of my company commander was on the show with me, so he was there, helping explain what we just sort of like that constable. We really, at first, we didn't really know what we were seeing. We didn't believe it. I mean, there's 18 of us standing there in the jungle, and we're all in tiger stripes, painted tiger stripes. And I think it's looking at us and we're looking at it, and it's probably trying to figure out why are these jungle bushes moving? And we're looking at it like, what the heck is that? You start thinking, okay, is somebody playing a joke? Somebody got ghillie suit on, but when you see the stature, over 8 feet, it pulled itself up along a tree to look at us, because my personal feeling was I don't think it knew what we were, because we were completely camouflaged. I don't know who was more scared. I don't know, me or any of my other guys, but you got 18 guys with FALs and not one of us pulled a trigger. So it's more the amazement factor than anything else. I mean, we're not sure what we're looking at. A humanoid, but it's not human, but it is, but it isn't, but it is. Your body's saying, there's something wrong here. You know, what am I really seeing? And throughout the next 3 or 4 days in that same area. Now we were in the corner. I can tell you, legally, I can tell you where we were. We were in the corner of the 3-corner area of Ecuador, Peru, and Colombia, near the Rocafuerte and the Putumayor River. And this thing followed us for about 3 or 4 days. I remember you guys just discussing about male, female. The version we had was definitely male because it had the pectoral. You could pretty much see the pectorals in it, compared to, like, if you look at the Patterson film, you can clearly tell that's female. I mean, that's one of the things. And like many others, I was a giant skeptic. There was no way. Growing up in Bradford County, Pennsylvania, I heard farmers talk about Bigfoot before, and we weren't really into believing that whole thing. But to actually start see one and to have it harass you for 3 days, it was incredible, and we kept seeing it, and it would only come out and show itself at night. And I think it was trying to establish territory. And we had Quechua guides with us at the time, the indigenous guides, and they knew very well. The first thing that come out of their mouth was Mapinguari, and we were like, "Are we really seeing this?" Because we had the same when you guys had Cliff on last week. We had heard stories that the Mapinguari was a giant sloth, not a humanoid, bipedal humanoid, and we were quickly corrected and found out the hard way that it is not a giant sloth. It is actually a humanoid. It can walk. It walked upright. We did see it go on all fours when it was going through dense jungle. And I think it was to accelerate speed, to get under the vegetation and not try to go through it standing up. A lot like we did. But I think the first night when our encounter happened, it really did not know what we were. I just think it just couldn't figure out. I have a unit picture. I sent Mike what we looked like, and I mean, we don't look human. I mean, we're all tiger striped to match the tiger stripes we were wearing as jungle rangers, and the Iwa guides were in the same type of uniform, and but as soon as they saw it, we saw it, they started whispering and talking, and they told us later they were talking to it. And apparently the customs down there is they have a relationship with these, much as I found out later after I met Mike, that doing the research through like Utah, Colorado, Montana, the Native Americans, Washington, and Native Americans had quite a relationship with the Sasquatch. The same with down there. They respected it as a respected being, and they told us there's females, there's little ones, the whole works. Now this was he harassed us approximately 3 to 5 days, because they're very territorial. And again, I think if he would have known we were human, I think he would have just left us alone. But he just wasn't sure what we were. And everybody said, "Well, why didn't you shoot it?" When we asked that question, is all of us said the same thing: is it looked too human. It's all right. We're there serving a purpose. We're the interdict drug. We were one of the guys looking for drug submarines that were being built by the Medellin cartel. You can't explain something when you see that you're just going to pull up and just drop it. It's like, what am I seeing? We all lit up. We had red lens flashlights, got a good glimpse of it. And the second time it showed its full body. And that was the immense size that we could not believe. And then, I stayed in South America for 3 years before I was wounded. And they told me all the stories about the Mapinguari, and I became fascinated with it. And every time I went out, I did, like you were, the constable was saying, I was looking at every possible sign, looking at every possible did it leave this print, leave this? And there was an old Jesuit monastery that was built like 1700s. That was just in ruins. And the Quechua told me they left food in there for it. And in return, it would give them gifts too. So when I was listening to Constable, this was like blowing my mind, because I'm like, holy cow, the North American one acts a lot like the South American one. Now, I've never seen a North American version yet. Mike and I tried once, and I get some health issues from getting shot a few times. And by the way, Chuck, bullets do not work on ghosts. I already learned that trick.
We weren't going to bring that up.
I was trying to slip it in on the down low, and but they want to totally call you out on that one.
Well, it's no secret.
It's trying to shoot a ghost.
Yeah, I saw an apparition. I'll say we saw an apparition because there was a team of
spread the guilt around a little bit, buddy.
Yeah, but I'm the only idiot.
We saw it. I just pulled up on it.
I was a deputy sheriff, so Allegheny County, Mike's neighbor. And we were in there, and my company commander happened to go with us because he heard about this hotel in Palmyra, New York, and he wanted to see if we could see something in there. And we got more than we asked for. Trust me, a lot more than we asked for. So this apparition appeared to me, and it was like trying to come at me. It looked like it was running towards me. So I drew my Glock 20, Model 20, 10 millimeter, and dropped 2 rounds out, and it marked and ricocheted off the concrete wall in the basement, and I was kicked out of the hotel. So I learned when I got in the car, I did the same thing. I had the little
the audacity of management to put you out of your
yeah. Well, I had a minor report thinking, what the hell just happened to me? And why didn't that bullet do anything? And I'm thinking, 10 millimeters is like the biggest there is. It should have stopped that. And everybody thought it was freaking funny until the bullet started ricocheting, all over the place. And,
minor details.
Staying around inside of a basement, dude. Yeah, that's
not smart. And I promise that every time, if I go on a hunt, this is a big if. I go on a hunt with Christy, I'm going to go on a hunt because, dude, I can handle that. Yeah. I don't have much hair, but I
don't want to hear that.
All of it was standing straight up, and it just like ran at me. I'm like, yo, dude, what? I'm yelling, stop. I'm like, yo, stop, stop. Yo, stop. Like, nope, it ain't. So I drew on it and I shot. So 2 rounds, 10 millimeter ball ammo, went flying all over the place, and I saw the doors open and get thrown out. So I'm not a good ghost hunter at all, but
clearly
yeah. Now you
not even rectal flies on the ground.
That's that stupid ranger mentality right there.
I'll kill you again.
Yeah. So,
man, I'm gonna have my work cut out for me. Oh, God help me.
Hey, I want to ask you about this Mapinguari thing, man.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Because it seems to be a constant theme that people that have seen these, whether it's Yeti or Sasquatch or whatever version of whatever continent you're on, that the similarities or the human-like features are very, I guess, pronounced, and it gives people pause. And I know I've heard anecdotal stories of hunters that have been on the gun, been on the scope, and not dropped the hammer because they said it looked
too human. Yeah.
So for you, was it that looks kind of like a person, only hairy, or that's a hairy thing that looks like a person? I mean, I know I'm like, I guess that's splitting hairs, but
no,
did you feel like it was a. Did you feel like
I'm gonna mute myself.
All of the above, because I mean, I pulled up the FAL. I mean, I went to put it on site because my company commander had the flashlight on him, and then I had two Ewa guides beside me that had flashlights on them. And I thought, oh man, first thing I thought was a guy in a ghillie suit. So I thought, okay, we got a FARC operator in a ghillie suit. And then when the lights come on, everybody started, 18 red lens flashlights lit up the area pretty well. He was less than 25 yards from us. So when we got a good look at him, it was a humanoid that was covered in hair. It had a somewhat ape-like feature on the face, but no, it looked like human eyes staring back at you. Mike and I had this conversation because the eyes are red, but we were using red lens flashlights, so I can't say the eyes are red. That's just what eye shine we were getting back. The second time we saw it was more towards the evening. We had a little bit more daylight, and back then we had the PVS 5. I'm sure you're familiar with it. So it wasn't the best in the world, but it was pretty good. And I pulled up the PVS 5, turned it on, and I've got full giant, looked like a gorilla standing in front of me. And it like swayed, trying to figure out what we're doing again. Throughout the other days that we didn't see it, it would throw rocks. It would do the same thing. And right around about the same time every night, it would howl. And the only howl that I've ever heard of it being very similar to is a howl that Mike sent me out of Michigan. One of the Sasquatch howls out of Michigan. That's what exactly sounded like. And it would do this howl about every night about the same time. I can't say, I want to say it was 3:00, but I don't remember. And it got so bad after 4 nights that our treetop guards, in the jungle, we put your night guard up in the tree. They didn't want to sit guard. And I mean, everybody had this uneasy feeling, and most of us wanted to back out of the operation, just get past the monastery, go find these, the Peace Corps guys and get out of Dodge because this thing was there. And then after we found the Peace Corps people and we got talking to them, and they were on the plane ride back to Tena, Ecuador, they said, well, you guys ever see the Sasquatch out there? And not one of us said a word because we didn't know whether he was just testing us or, all right, was he the one running around in a monkey suit or what? We just didn't know. But, we knew it was about 8 feet because where it stood, the next morning we went up the same thing. We measured the height where we saw it grabbing the branch, and not one of us could grab that branch. Easily.
Right, I'm going to ask you a weird question here, dude.
Sure.
Did you get a vibe off of this thing?
Oh,
and by that, like, and Mike, this you may jihad with this. You ever, grabbed a hold of somebody to handcuff them, and you get a vibe like this dude's a predator, like this guy will kill somebody. You ever experience that where somebody gives off that predatory vibe, like they're not a regular person, right? So is that the kind of vibe you got from this thing? Was it like this thing's predatory, or was it territorial, or did you get a vibe at all?
I think I got more of the territorial vibe. This was his backyard, and I'm invading it. That's what I felt. When he was clearly making his presence known to us. And again, the Iwas we relied on mostly because they claim to deal with this thing. They're the guardians of the so-called rainforest, Amazon. They're from the Waroni tribes and the Quechua tribes. They told us that they are the true guardian of the Amazon, and they have been there for thousands of years. And the Incas communicated with them. The Chimu before the Incas communicated with them. Using knocks, rocks, so forth, drawings, pictures. A lot of the archaeology in South America has a religious connotation to it. And we noticed, like in the monastery, that many years in 1700, somebody drew pictures of a giant, and the word in the direct translation the Quechua had was, I think it was Watchers of the Earth. I think that's what they come up with, and this is one of the reasons why I took on a more religious aspect to it than being a non-religious aspect, because supposedly this is what we were told. This is their theorem, is that it's a seraphim, half human, half angel. That's why it has the ability not to be heard when it walks, not to be seen when it wants to be seen. But it's half human, half angel, or fallen angel. Correct. I'll correct myself. Fallen angel. It's evil in nature. They tell us. I didn't get that feeling. I didn't get the feeling it was evil. I did feel like I was definitely in. I want to say I was. It's like a cat pissing on a tree. It's like that's
You
my
were in his
damn
house.
tree.
You were in his house.
Yes, exactly. And that's the vibe I had for 5 days until we left that area. That did not leave me. And then I was fascinated with, every time we went out, I begged to have, a interaction with it. But the problem was we weren't in the area, we were in the area twice the whole 3 years I was down there. The second time we were in that area, we heard it again. We heard the howl. So was there more than one? I don't know. The Quechua told us all kinds of stories. They told us there was only 7 of them on the earth. There were 1 on each continent. I don't know. They told us that there's 7 on the earth at all times, 1 on each continent. They all have a wife. They all have a family. And they're the 7 watchers of the earth to watch humans sin until the resurrection. This is what they told us.
Shit, well, they're getting an eyeful right now, boy.
Oh my God, you better believe it. Well, anyway,
Wow.
next story. Yeah. So I mean, that's what they told us. So, I don't know.
No.
I really don't know. I know the Waironi tribe that was closest lived to where they were. When we went in and talked to them, they were adamant that they had communicated with it. That he had told them that he did not like us being in their area, and I don't know how the Yachatetas did that. There's a lot of unknown questions, and that's one of the reasons why I really want to go back next year. I'm like Mike, though. I think going to Nepal first would be defined, because I already have proof in South America, so I can cross it off my list. So now I want to find a North American species, and I watched Josh Gates, and he swears there is a Yeti. And then so I'm being a Josh Gates fan. I want to go see if there's one in Nepal. I want to see if there's something there. Because without doubt, without reservation, without any conviction, I can say that I know the Mapinguari is real. I've seen it. It's there. So if there's one in South America, why wouldn't there be one in North America, even though I haven't seen it? Is it a different color? Yeah, most likely. I don't know. I've never seen one, so I don't know. Ours was the reddish brown hair, but that makes sense for the territory. That's what blends in the most with the Amazon. We were in the lowland basin of the Amazon in the 3-country area there, and that area is relatively unexplored. There was Jesuits there, mission in 1700s, and they left for whatever reason, and they left some paintings on the wall that make you think that they were scared out of there. And were they? I don't know. I don't know. The Yachatetas in the area, which are the chiefs, they told us yes, that the Mapinguari had forced the rest of the Jesuits out of the area by scaring them. I know I didn't really have fear, but I could not bring myself, any of us, all 18 of us could not bring ourselves to shoot it because it was too human-like. It was just...
That's fair.
Yeah, I mean...
But open fire on an apparition.
Yeah, I mean, you. Yeah.
Right. He can see the thing right in front of him, but close,
I'll take Bigfoot
Fine.
over apparitions. Anyway. That's something you can see and feel and fight back at least. You know what I mean? Or
That's what
run
they
from.
teach you when you get in the Ranger Battalion. It's just,
Yeah.
you know what? I'm gonna in the actual living thing.
That's funny. Yeah, 'cause-
Thing that may or may not exist.
yeah.
It's frustrating me.
I think I had
Yes,
a Ranger
but-
truck. There was a Sasquatch. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but if you think about it, a Sasquatch or anything that's in front of you, living and breathing, can physically hurt you. I mean, can ghosts
Yep.
do the
Yes.
same thing? Yeah, that's a whole different show. But if you think about it, you're right. To kill something to take a life is one thing, but
Yeah.
they can also kill and hurt you, supposedly. So you would almost think you'd be more on guard or ready to defend yourself, I guess. That's really
Yeah,
my
I mean,
point.
I
Like,
had 20,
you know,
I had a 20-round box magazine, and I still didn't think I could do it. You know, I didn't think I even wanted to try. Even with 18 of us, I don't think any of us thought, hey, you know, let's try this. Let's get in a gunfight with a Sasquatch. You know, it's like,
right.
no, you know, I mean, we just, you know,
Yeah,
it
we'll do
took
it
us
with
a few
ghosts
minutes to figure out what we were seeing, whether that
Right.
wasn't, you know, ghillie suit or whatever. But, you know, with an apparition, there's no fight, man. The dang thing just starts.
So how'd you shoot at it for then?
I don't know what you're talking about. I have a lot to teach you.
You
Holy
see
crap.
Ghostbusters, that ectoplasm coming through.
Whispers in your ears and stuff like that. No,
Rangers lead the way.
not in certain things, Chuck. You got to remember that. Certain things we decide to let you guys have the honor.
Oh, that'd be a great
Oh,
Matt
here we
Beth video. Ray, you did a walkabout for 22 days. Did it bug you while you were on your own out there?
No, I think because I had a Jaguar. It was following me. The Jaguar trailed me probably for 3 days. Because the night that the Jaguar came into my camp, he tore my medical backpack all apart. And it was weird because he went after the petrolatum gauze. That's what I didn't understand. You know, that's the only thing he wanted in the pack. He tore the whole backpack apart to get to the petrolatum gauze. I'm like,
Wow.
must be at a sunburned tongue or something. I couldn't figure it out. But when you feel that breath of a Jaguar on your neck, and you know he's that close, and you can't take a shot because you're going to let every FARC soldier know where you are at that point. There's nothing you can do about it, you know. And I'm thinking, let it be a Sasquatch, please, because I think this thing's going to eat me, you know. And I'd rather be raped by a Sasquatch than eaten by a damn.
Would you know?
Well, it's weird.
I'm serious.
Okay.
I got nothing.
That's weird.
I mean,
I got nothing.
I hear
I
the
mean-
background. Oh,
Would you?
I would take the full.
Because I'll take the Jaguar bite
Eat
over the 9 feet Betty.
Oh,
Crazy.
Oh my
that's
God.
gonna be great.
You should kill me.
You know, it's interesting that you bring up South America because, and this total sidetrack here, but my grandfather put a DC-4 down in the Marta River, just on the Columbia side of the mountains.
Yep.
In about 1949, 1950. He's the only human being alive to bring out all of his passengers and all of his crew after
No
having
kidding.
crashed an airplane in the Amazon River.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, because it's an unforgiving land. I mean, I understand why when I watch Naked and Afraid when they go into the Amazon, I just start dying because I know most of them aren't going to make it. And just for the record, Mike, I did last 1 day longer than Melanie, so there you go. And
Oh,
she
shots
was
fired
naked.
again.
but you know, she was a girl, so
oh.
I think the monkeys left her alone on purpose. I was constantly harassed by the monkeys.
Damn, son.
I think that's going to be an Army-Navy thing. She hears that.
Yeah, well, that's the time why I'm throwing the shot out. You know, I got a son leaving for the Navy in 50 days. So
Talking shit about
Chuck's going, this guy's lost it,
Oh
man.
my God.
Well, listen, I
Marines are
want enough
bad.
Rangers to know that you're all functionally
True story. True story, brother. True story.
I mean, how the Marine Corps got the bad rap out of all this, I got no idea. Functional at best.
That's true. That's true. I think secretly we try to pass it off on to you guys. Blame everything on you.
Yeah, blame us. Oh,
Blame you guys.
You're the dumbest.
Yep.
Oh my God. So I have a legitimate question though. What, Mike? You were going to say something.
No, we're at the 10 o'clock hour. We can go a little bit longer. So.
Yeah, Teddy can wait. So I have a question. What is the thought process, or what is? Do you think that they migrate? Do you think that Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Mapinguari, whatever, because there's so many different names, do they migrate? And if so, does their fur change or their hair change in order to adapt to their surroundings?
I don't know. That's a good question.
When they go visit the in-laws in Niagara
Well,
Falls, because that's
if
one
you
of the
take a
7
look
wonders
at-
of the world, right?
If you take a look at Alaskan snowshoe hare, it doesn't change its fur color. I mean, it's still white. So
Right.
it does a
really shitty job of hiding during the summer.
Thank you,
yeah,
Cindy.
exactly. I mean,
Yeah. No, but seriously, my
that white
serious
thing
question
with
is, do you think that they migrate? Do you think that they do move around, or do they stay where they're at and that's their territory?
I think that we traveled about 37 miles, and it was following us the whole time. So it only gives, if it knew the way it was staying on the other side of the river for 37 miles, it must have known the way. How did it know exactly everywhere we're going to turn on the river bend? So
Do you think it's
guess
possible?
I assume.
Like, could it travel?
And
Decide I don't like
where
this
was
environment
Cliff? He
anymore
said
and go
Brazil, right?
literally somewhere else.
Pardon?
What's that?
Cliff was in Brazil.
Yeah, so they heard of the Mapinguari in Brazil. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think Trent, where was Trent when he had his?
I don't remember.
Well,
I think Trent was in Belize.
Okay, it's central.
Yeah, and he had that come right into camp when he was doing filming for Naked and Afraid, and ended up sending trackers out and everything else because they had it right on his film and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
I would almost have to believe that they migrate to some extent to another or another, because if you think about it, all but Antarctica have some form or version or genus of this animal, right?
Okay.
So it had to
I didn't know
have
that
gotten
either.
from
So
wherever it started to wherever it ended. I mean, there's even a version in Australia. So,
okay.
I mean, you would have to go back to Pangea almost to say, all right, this thing started here. Now, for it to travel across North America to Asia and into Europe, well, there was a land bridge, the Alaskan land bridge and all that other stuff. But how the hell did it get to Australia? Would it jump on a boat?
Right.
So
Right.
at some point, Australia was attached to whatever. So it predates us.
Yeah.
So it's got to move around.
I think you just made the best Chuck thought on this thing than anybody's had, because everybody else is like, it comes down this bridge or that bridge or something like that. But I think you said going way back farther. I think that really makes the point.
Yeah. I never thought of that, because the Amazon experience the wet season where the whole terrain changes. So we were there during the dry season when we saw it the first time. So the land that was there during the wet season is buried under 9 to 11 feet of water. So it has to migrate someplace. Where it goes, I don't know. I don't know. You can't use land features in
and we were talking
map
about
and compass in the Amazon, because it's constantly changing, with the weather.
Right.
Like I said, last week we had Steve on and we were talking about Whitehall and the Adirondacks.
Yeah.
And Whitehall sits, for those that don't know, Whitehall sits between Vermont and the Adirondack State Forest in New York. And this little town, and it's the birthplace of the U.S. Navy. So as long as we're on this thing, let's get the little hook in there. And the sightings through all the time. But on one side you have the Mike's in his I can't talk mode again tonight. Deciduous forest coming down through this valley, and up on the other side is the Green Mountains of Vermont, which is all pine and evergreen and stuff like that. And that's where the native tribes moved back and forth. They had their summer homes in the Adirondacks and the winter homes in the Green Mountains. So that whole group went back and forth. Yeah, and John, yes, the Yowie is the South American, or not South American. It's the Australian version. Ooh, God, yeah.
Wow.
04 was a little
Very
early.
interesting.
So yeah, and then Teddy said we can go a little later. He's good. He must be really watching tonight. So
I think that's Cindy. I believe that's Cindy. Just
okay.
saying. I think
okay.
It's Cindy. So,
she's taking over. She's taking over a show. Either way, it's one of the two of them.
I don't like it when I'm on with her.
Yeah,
especially when she starts thinking.
Yeah.
Who? What? Cindy?
No, you.
Oh. What's wrong? Why? What?
Because every time I've been on with you live on national.
Here we go.
Oh, we're international, buddy.
Yeah, international. You come up with something, you pull out and scare the bejesus out of me. So there you go.
Only when we're live. Come on.
Well,
it's
right.
Teddy.
Sorry, Teddy. All right, I'll keep my mouth shut.
She usually scares the boys, not you.
I was just gonna say, it's usually your kids.
Yeah.
So
they all ran, if you noticed. They all took off. Oh no, she's on. We're out of here.
Oh, I'm a little hurt and offended. I've been nothing but nice to those guys. So you know what?
That's the problem.
There you go.
So, Chuck or Christy, any more questions for Ray about?
Yeah. Have you had any paranormal experiences other than Bigfoot? Did you ever have anything paranormal happen to you while you were out?
Ambulance or fire?
Not ambulance or fire, but with the USNSCC. Both of my boys are in the U.S. Navy Sea Cadet Corps, and we went to the Genesee Park. It's famous. It's got the asylum there. Why we were out in the park, I'm not going to give a lot of information away because Christy is very familiar with the information, and I don't want to. I want to take her out there, so I was.
I didn't realize this was the same story.
Yeah, I was the commander in charge of POLA, which is Petty Officer Leader Academy. And my cadets were out in the field. I was standing near a certain position, I will not say, and we started getting some weird radio interference. And there was two of us on radio. One of the other guys that was on radio, she picked out because he lost his son to suicide. He was on the other radio, and we started hearing disembodied voices coming through the radio. And,
are you getting goosebumps, Chuck?
Yeah. So I mean, he's already lost his son, and he's like, "Did you hear that?" And I said, "Yeah." You kind of want to play. No, I didn't hear nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, "Did you hear that?" I said, "Yeah. What was that?" And. At one point, and Christy knows this part, I walked probably about another 28 yards, and it was a female voice come on and said, "You're standing on my grave."
Man, stop it.
And
oh yeah.
Immediately when I got home, I called Christy, and I just make a long story short, she was able to tell me who it was, where I was. She drew a picture exactly where I was. Chuck, that freaked me the hell out.
That's freaking me out. I wasn't even there, dude.
I still have the picture.
I have that effect on men. What can I tell you?
Yeah. She drew the exact picture, the exact angle I was looking at, and she drew exactly where, and then told me who the person was. And it was when she told me the name, I had not given her any information. And what had happened to her, the girl had told me what had happened to her. I did not tell Christy that. She nailed it dead on. When I told the other guy, and then she talked about his son to my kids, because my kids miss him dearly. He was one of our Sea Cadets, and we lost 2 Sea Cadets in 1 year to suicide. And when I told him about the story, and he said, "Did you ever talk to her about what happened out at the park? And I said, yes. And he goes, does she know this was not in the asylum? I said, yes. It's, I clearly, when we found the grounds manager out there, he said that over time they just buried everybody anywhere out there in the park. And at the point where I was at, I was not even anywhere near the asylum, but I was standing on top of her grave. And it came at first, she broke over the radio and just gave it was like, shh, I'm here. And I'm like, I go, say again. I thought one of my cadets said something to me, and I have female cadets, so I thought, okay, one of the cadets says it, and it goes, you're standing on my grave. Please know I'm here. Help me. And I felt the impression at the time to call Christy immediately. And so when I got home that weekend, we don't have any so there's no cell reception up there. When I got home that Sunday, if you remember, I called you right then and there. I didn't even wait, and I let you tell me the story. And I did not give her any information at all. And she nailed the direction I was watching. She drew a picture of what I saw, where I was standing, everything. And
I can't draw.
Well,
and I suck at maps.
Yeah,
so.
well, you did it. It was enough to freak the living daylights out of me. So, yeah. And now I feel this pull to go back and finish the story with her. To find, she wants to tell Christy the rest of her story, and have Christy there to see where she's at.
I can't wait.
Yeah, Christy.
I feel that pull. I feel.
Come on, like Chuck, you're coming too.
Hey, you wanted to do a paranormal show, Chuck.
Man knows the limitations. Listen to me. I've had a lot of people say a lot of weird stuff on a keyed up radio to me. Most of it's been, during fights or something along those lines. But if I ever got a radio keyed up and somebody said you're standing on my grave, hey, I'm throwing the radio.
Yeah.
All of it. The whole radio. Whoever's got the other radio, I'm throwing them too.
Yeah. And it's not that she come out and said, you're standing on my grave. She's like, you're standing on my grave.
Dude, stop. Yes.
I got some great audio of something correcting me.
I got you 5-5, dude. I understand I'm standing on your grave.
Now I got the willies. I got the willies back. I got goosebumps. I was just talking about I got goosebumps again because it is real as shit. I told her the story. She filled in all the blanks. I didn't have to tell her anything. She told me back the story. And then she said, hold the rest of it because I want to go out there. I'm supposed to go out there and finish this. I'm like, yeah, that's what I was told. And since then I've told this to Christy. I've had several dreams of her and
of Christy or the ghost.
All right, listen. Why did you have to go there?
Yes, I tried to be Chuck.
Christy, we're already somewhere else.
We're going. We're over the edge.
Radio. Talk about your
How is it? I need some female cohorts. How do I always get stuck with the guys? I mean, I can hold my own with the guys. But what the hell already? Once in a while, a girl needs some backup. Okay.
Company, Christy.
You guys had Melanie on, and she's telling me about when she had a sexual encounter with a ghost. I lost it.
Shut up.
I decided.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, Chuck, I'm out of here. No, you really got to enjoy it.
Oh, yeah.
Enjoy it. I'm like, no, she just did not say that.
If I'm like, telling me that's not good, that's not good. She's like, no, it was good.
Yeah. Like,
no, that's not a good thing.
Like,
no.
I'm going back to the Sasquatch. See, I told you.
Somebody put a fence up around this thing.
In New York.
It's weird. So our last witness, Billy, where he said he lost those 3 pictures, and that was at Rolling Hills, which is the asylum, which is the county poorhouse, is adjacent to the.
Oh, Mike froze. Look at that. What?
Yeah, we all did. It was the weird, like,
that was strange. It's probably Christy's fault.
Yep.
See, now it's going to start playing
Try
with
me.
electronics.
Try
I
me.
already got goosebumps, so thank you.
Poke the bear. I dare you.
Well, I know
Like
who
to
ain't
live
gonna
on the
sleep
edge,
tonight.
man.
Yeah, that whole area of Genesee County is just weird. I mean,
Yeah, you can say that again.
UFO sightings and it's just
Yeah.
weird over there.
You know,
So,
I've not. It's one thing. Not well. It's not the one thing, but I have not had a UFO encounter.
Me neither.
Shocked.
You know what? I did see something when I was a kid. Well, I was probably in middle school, and I did. And I grew up in a suburb of Buffalo. And all it was, you remember the Disney movie in the early '80s, Flight of the Navigator?
Yeah.
Totally.
Okay, that was like one of my favorite movies growing up. You could barely find it after a while too. But you know how the ship actually changed shape
Yes.
and morphed? How cool it was. So behave yourself. No. Beauty. So
Gotta
here
watch
we
your
a
language
friend
now,
of
Christy.
what?
Gotta watch your language now. There's a child in the room.
He's a sea cadet.
So I just remember a friend of mine came into town. So we walked to the playground in my neighborhood and we were just sitting on the swings, just talking. And in the back of the elementary school that we were at was woods. And out of nowhere, this thing that looked like it was like a bulbous back and then a pointy, it's almost like an upside down teardrop, but the round part was a little more defined and then it came to a point. It was the coolest, weirdest thing. And it kind of would speed up and slow down, but it always stayed straight. And it was like this really dark gray silver color. But it was very defined, and I had never seen anything in it about like it in my life. And my husband's even retired Air Force. I never saw anything like this. So I don't. Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. I think I was about. Well, it was probably late '80s.
Well, you one up me.
Really early '90s. Yeah, it was the coolest thing. That, but other than that, I haven't had. Well, no, I did have a Bigfoot experience with Mike. You know, when he didn't leave me stranded in the woods by myself. We did hear a scream behind me, of course, and
yep.
you know, so that was
It
cool. It was the
wasn't
end of the
you.
night, and we did hear what?
It wasn't you screaming. Then.
No, it wasn't me.
No.
No,
okay.
unlike the rest of you tough guys, I don't scream like a little girl when something happens.
I do.
But hey, that's just
Oh, here we go. All right, so what? I screamed.
You're allowed. It's all right.
You shot a ghost.
I tried to.
Shots fired.
It came straight at me. What was I supposed to do? You know, like anybody
Or
else.
run.
You know, I was trained deputy. I was like, take the thing down. Yeah, the thing wasn't real. I mean, it was real. But
There ain't no coming back from that, man.
Yep. I'm getting you a super soaker.
yeah,
Super soaker with holy water.
holy water. Yeah, ectoplasm.
Oh yeah. No, I will be doing Sorry John, but if you come out and go hunting with me, Mike can pat you down, and then I'm doing it myself because there's no way in hell you were going to be armed in any way, shape, or form.
I've learned my
Going out
lesson.
with me.
Here's the history here, sir.
I've learned my
From
lesson.
the ghost hunt.
He invites me over to Parafest, not last year, the year before, and the people from Palmyra are sitting there, and that goes, "Hey, I remember you." And I was like, and not in a good way. I was like, I just
What?
Well, you tried to shoot him, though, Tony.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah, that wasn't good.
It's because of
No.
you. They have metal detectors to get in and out of that place now.
Probably true.
Well, Ray, thank you for your time.
wow.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah.
And
Yes. Thank you very much.
Same to
get
you, Chuck. And Mike, you know, I know you get to work with my wife every day, so you must enjoy it. And Chuck, it's really great to meet you.
pleasure's
I know
all
I
on this
pick
side of
on-
the table, bud.
You know, I pick on Marines a lot, but you know, I got a lot of respect for you. I don't know if you saw combat or not, but doesn't matter to me. You know, we had Task Force Semperfi in Panama, and you know they covered our 6. So you know, I can't begrudge anybody a little crayon dust on their hands. And Christy, you know how I feel about you. I mean, you know, my kids really my kids love you, and I really can't wait to get all you guys out, Mike and you and whoever else wants to come out there to GCP and go visit that spot. Because you know, there's something there, there's a story there to be told, and I think you can tell it. You know, and I think she's crying out for that story to be told, and I'm just. I didn't want to be a part, but I guess I am.
Awesome. Thank you, Ray.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you, Ray. Hi to the
Guys,
family.
good luck.
Yeah.
Talk nice to meet
Thank you.
brother.
Bye, Ray. So,
That was amazing.
yes. So we
Absolutely amazing.
we talked about it for the last couple of years of doing this. Maybe we can do 1 or 2 more.
Oh yeah.
When the climate swings around a little bit. So if you are a first responder, if you are a veteran, and you've had an experience, if you're a doctor, you're a nurse. Surprised Brian didn't chime in. You know, I have a friend that was running a imaging camera at a hospital, and something walked right in front of the camera, and the head of the hospital, quit the next day. And he was afraid of ghosts. You know, but if you've had something,
that's fair.
Yeah, it's not always Bigfoot. You know, a lot of contacts I have and folks that follow us they're a lot more Bigfoot guys. But like Billy that came on, I mean, he has a lot of paranormal experience. And it's not always going to be that body that floats in front of you. You know, it's when you're sitting there. How do you disprove? You know, the change, the door opening, or you know. What the hell's that glow when it's not supposed to be there? You know, and our job in all the services is kind of disprove that. You know, look for the scientific reason, and sometimes that answer is not there. But getting out, experiencing life, enjoying life, and being kind to your neighbors is the big thing. You know, so So what else you got there, Chuck? And we got a few minutes more. Teddy gave us an extra, little bit of time there before his show comes on. So,
but very generous of Teddy. But I don't know how I follow up with. I saw a Mapinguari and didn't shoot it, but did shoot at a ghost. So I don't know what to do.
Yeah, that one's gonna go down to history.
Processing that. That's the best story I've heard this week. So that's a lot to take in. A lot to take in.
Yeah.
You know what I would like to do though? Once I start doing, once I get to the point with the YouTube channel where I'm doing interviews, I think both of you guys should come on either separately or together, and just to talk. And Mike definitely because of the law enforcement background. And I think this is something that a lot of people in our field, whether it's paranormal or cryptid or whatever the case may be, I think it's something that kind of gets glossed over.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah.
But I think it's something that we should all probably acknowledge and feel free to talk about and share our experiences, right? Not because it's cool.
Right.
And it's fascinating. But B, we're not when it happens to you, you're like, oh man, I am on LSD.
Yep.
Apparently I dropped acid on the way to work. But that may not be the case, man. You just may have seen some weird shit.
And that's just it. When you and I started talking, how many guys, catch me when they find out, in the back room or the proverbial water cooler or something like that. Yeah. Hey, I was working here at this day at this time, and you do this stuff, man. I can't tell anybody else I work with. They'll think I'm nuts. And you're like, well, what'd you see? Well, I went to this building and man, I watched this shadow move across this thing, and I did the jumping jacks in front of the security lights and tried to get my flashlight on it, and I don't know what it was. Well, you don't know what you saw. I don't know what you saw, but you had an experience that's yours. You know, Ray had his experience with his thing. That's the thing. You had your experience. You know, years ago, I can remember working in a hospital and pushing a poor guy into the morgue and having the body sit. Actually, we're pulling the body out to change him out, and the body sat up, and that nurse was gone.
Seen it.
You know, but that's
no, I can't say that wouldn't make me pee.
That's not a spiritual thing. I mean, that's a scientific thing.
Right.
What
Right.
that does to that person is, through that door, like you said, through that porta potty, you know.
Yes.
And I still, you need to come up with a shirt for that because you got the graphics, man. That Bigfoot holding that thing when somebody's shooting through that toilet will get Doug some copies.
So funny.
That's great.
But and it's we're here. You know, those firemen or EMTs in the back of the ambulance that, you know, work on that guy for 25 minutes and, you know, he or she is passed and they get to the hospital and they're alive and you're like, how? You know, those miracles that we see this universe, you know, it happens. We see that stuff.
Of us that have had these experiences that haven't talked about it. And it's not like it's not like you have to talk about it for your own sanity, I guess, or maybe you do. I don't know. I guess it would depend on the individual, but still, it's cool to know that there are other people that have experienced this shit, and it's not just you, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And
People need to know they're not alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're seeing unicorns and stardust and shit like that, part of my language, you know, maybe you need some sleep and to stop. Yeah.
Right.
Drinking all that Red Bull. Yeah, but yeah, you know, we all have that sixth sense. If you're doing any of these things, you have that sixth sense of what's around you, and you notice more stuff around you.
You know what?
The longer you're involved in things like that, investigators of the paranormal find that all of a sudden their senses are heightened and they're tapping into, without even trying, sometimes that part of their soul, that part of us as human beings, they don't even realize they're doing it. Or their families, like my family, my kids blossomed with their gifts after I finally came out and did that. And that was just when the older two were younger. So, you know, it's everything is heightened because you're around it, and it's not even like you're forcing it on them. It's just the nature of the energy. Excuse me. And so it's the same, you know, for all of you, you know, first responders, anybody. You know, I mean, I'm drawn to a hospital setting. I prefer working in a hospital clinical setting more so than a private dentist office. Why is that? There's got to be a reason for that. So, we're all in the same boat. We're not alone, and people need to understand that. And sometimes our environment makes it hard for us to talk about that, you know. But I think it is important that we talk about it, because for our sanity, we need to understand we're not alone, and we need to get it out. Yeah. Because it does, you know, the fear will fester. The unsettled feelings that are left behind will fester. And that's not a healthy thing.
You're wise beyond your years, Christy.
You just called me young. Thank you.
You what?
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I tried.
I do.
What did you say? He was old. What did you say?
I didn't say I was old. No.
What? No.
Maybe I am.
Well, you're older than me. That's all that matters.
Oh, shit. Got fired for real.
That's right.
Cool. And Teddy says he's got a doctor that wrote a book on paranormal and hospital while going through surgery. Where he'll set us up. So that'll be a good person to
Very
get
awesome.
in. We'll get Brian, and it may get noisy in here in a minute. I think I've got a shepherd and Doberman about to go out the back door here. So
well, it's just been fun, guys. I think we should do this again at some point.
We would love to have you. Thank you so much. This was a great show, and we were very, very grateful that you've come on. So if
you could just hold for a minute, we're going to sign out, and we'll be right back. So, all right. Thank you,
everybody. And thank you, everybody out there, for watching and following us. Stay safe and sample on.
Yeah. Thank you very much, guys. Where is there it is.